My name is Marcus, and I've been driving Uber for about 2 years now. I started doing it to pay off student loans after I dropped out of college. I couldn't afford the tuition anymore, and my part-time job at Best Buy, it wasn't cutting it. The gig economy isn't glamorous, but the money's decent if you work the late shift. Drunk college kids, airport runs, people getting off work at weird hours. You learn to read people pretty quickly in this job. But I'm done. After what happened over the past 2 weeks, I'm never getting behind the wheel again. I'm recording this from my motel room 3 states away from home, and I still don't feel safe. Let me start from the beginning because I need you to understand this didn't happen all at once. It built up slowly, and by the time I realised what was happening, it was too late to stop. The first time I picked up David was about 3 weeks ago. It was a Tuesday night around 11:45 PM. I was parked outside of Taco Bell in downtown, scrolling through TikTok when I got a ping. The pickup was only 4 blocks away, some apartment complex called Riverside Manor. I'd never been there before, but the passenger had a 5-star rating and the trip was estimated at 12 minutes. Pretty easy money. I pulled up to this old apartment building, probably built in the 70s, brown brick, those weird orange lights in the stairwells that make everything look like a horror movie. There was a guy standing by the curb, about mid-30s maybe, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. Nothing unusual about him at first glance. He got in the back seat without saying a word, which wasn't uncommon. Half my passengers spend the entire ride staring at their phones anyway. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Pale skin, dark hair, looked tired. The kind of tired you get from working double shifts at some dead-end job. "David?" I asked, just to confirm. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, thanks for picking me up so late." His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I figured he was just being considerate since it was nearly midnight. Maybe didn't want to wake up his neighbours or something. The destination was about 10 minutes away, some residential area I'd been to a few times before. I pulled away from the curb and started driving. "Long day?" I asked, trying to make some conversation. I've learned that some passengers appreciate the small talk, others just want to sit in silence. You develop a sense for it. "Something like that," he said. His voice had a weird quality to it, like he was talking through cotton or something. We drove in silence for the rest of the trip. I dropped him off at a small house with a decent front yard, the kind of middle-class neighbourhood where people actually know their neighbours. He got out, said, "Thanks," and walked up to the front door. I waited until he was inside before driving away, like I always do, just a safety protocol. The trip went smoothly. He tipped me $5 through the app and gave me 5 stars. Seemed like a normal, quiet passenger. I didn't think about David again until 3 days later. Friday night, same time, 11:30 PM. I was in a different part of town, waiting outside a 24-hour diner, when I got another ping. Same name, David M. Same pickup location, Riverside Manor Apartments. That's not entirely unusual. I've had repeat customers before, people who work late shifts and need regular rides home. But something felt off when I pulled up to the building. David was standing in the exact same spot, wearing the exact same clothes. Dark hoodie, jeans, same tired expression. For a moment, I wondered if he'd been standing there since Tuesday. He got in the back seat, same position as before. "David?" I asked. He nodded. "Thanks for picking me up so late." Same words, same whispered tone, same destination. I started driving, and that's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. My car had automatic climate control, and it's usually pretty good at maintaining a comfortable temperature. But as soon as David got in, it felt like the AC had kicked into overdrive. The back of my neck was getting cold, and I could see my breath fogging up slightly. "Hey, you feeling cold back there?" I asked, reaching for the climate controls. No response. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and David was sitting perfectly still, staring straight ahead at the back of my seat, not moving, not blinking, just frozen. "David, are you okay?" Still nothing. The temperature kept dropping. By the time we reached his street, I was actually shivering. I pulled up to the same house as before and turned around to tell him we'd arrived. Backseat was empty. I immediately checked the door handles, still locked from the inside. Windows were up. I got out and walked around the car, looking for any sign of where he could have gone. Nothing. The street was dead quiet. But here's the weird part. When I checked my phone, the trip showed as completed. David had somehow rated me 5 stars and left the same $5 tip, even though I never saw him get out of the car. I drove home that night feeling rattled, but I convinced myself there was a logical explanation. Maybe he'd gotten out at a red light when I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I'd zoned out more than I thought. People do weird things sometimes, and after 2 years of driving strangers around, I'd seen plenty of weird. But then I checked my dashcam footage. I always record my trips for safety reasons, never know when you might need evidence if a passenger tries to claim something happened that didn't. So when I got home, I pulled up the footage from David's ride. Here's what really messed me up. The camera showed me talking to empty air. For the entire 12-minute trip, the back seat was empty, but I could hear my own voice on the recording, responding to someone, asking about their day, commenting on the weather, all the usual small talk, but there was no one there to respond. I watched the footage 5 times, convinced I was missing something, but it was clear as day. I had spent 12 minutes having a conversation with no one. I didn't sleep much that weekend. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept thinking about the empty back seat and David's whispered voice. By Monday, I almost convinced myself it was some kind of technical glitch with the camera. That's when I decided to do some research. I spent Monday afternoon going down a rabbit hole on Reddit. Turns out, there's an entire community of rideshare drivers who share paranormal experiences. And when I searched for posts about passengers disappearing, I found something that made my blood run cold. There were 12 other posts describing the exact same thing. Different cities, different drivers, but the exact same basic story. A passenger named David M. always picked up late at night, always disappeared from a locked car, always left 5-star ratings. The posts were going back 8 months. Phoenix, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, all different David M's, but the description was identical. Dark hoodie, quiet voice, mid-30s with pale skin. I created a throwaway account and posted my own experience. Within an hour, I had 3 direct messages from other drivers. Sarah from Phoenix. It happened to me 6 times before I stopped driving nights. The car gets freezing cold, right? And he always says the same thing about picking him up late. Mike from Atlanta. Bro, check the passenger pickup history. I bet David's trips don't show up in your earnings report even though you got paid. Tom from Denver. Whatever you do, don't accept another ride from him. It gets worse. I checked my earnings history like Mike suggested. He was right. There was no record of either trip with David M. The money had appeared in my account, but according to Uber's system, those rides never happened. That's when I got scared. I was about to message Tom back to ask what he meant by "it gets worse" when my phone buzzed with a ride request. David M. Riverside Manor Apartments, 11:30 p.m. I stared at my screen for a full minute. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to decline the ride, to turn off the app, to go home and just forget this whole thing. but I needed to know what was happening, and honestly, part of me was curious about how far this would go. I accepted the ride. When I pulled up to Riverside Manor, David was waiting in his usual spot. Same clothes, same expression, same everything. But this time, something was different. As he walked towards my car, I noticed his footsteps weren't making any sound on the gravel parking lot. And when he opened the door, the interior light didn't come on. He got into the back seat and immediately the temperature plummeted. This time, it was so cold I could see my own breath, and frost started forming on the inside of my windows. "David," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Thanks for picking me up so late," he whispered. I started driving towards his usual destination, but I kept watching him in the mirror. He was sitting perfectly upright, hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead. And I realised something that made my stomach drop. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. "David, are you feeling alright?" I asked. For the first time, he turned his head to look at me. When his eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, I saw they were completely black. Not just the pupils, the entire eye, from corner to corner. I slammed on my brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. When I turned around to confront him, the back seat was empty again. But this time, I heard his voice right next to my ear, even though there was no one there. "Keep driving, Marcus." He knew my name. I never told him my name. My hands were shaking as I put the car back in drive. I didn't know what else to do. The GPS was still showing his destination as 2 miles away, and something told me I needed to complete this trip. As I drove, I started hearing other voices in the car, whispers coming from the back seat, but not just David's voice. Multiple people, all talking at once, too quiet for me to make out the words. The radio turned on by itself, cycling through static and broken transmissions. For a few seconds, I heard what sounded like news report from years ago. 3 fatalities in an apartment fire on Riverside Drive. Then it cut to static again. By the time I reached David's street, the whispers have gotten louder. I could make out fragments of conversation. "Never left. Still waiting. Come back for us." I pulled up to his house and turned around. David was sitting there again, but now I could see through him. He was translucent, like looking at someone through fog glass. "Thanks for the ride," he said, and his voice echoed like he was in a tunnel. He opened the door and got out, but I watched him walk through the front door of the house instead of opening it. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, just staring at that house, trying to process what I'd seen. Finally, I worked up the courage to get out and walked up to the front door. There was a "for sale" sign in the yard that I hadn't noticed before. The windows were boarded up and there was a notice posted on the door from the city condemning the property. According to the date, the house had been abandoned for 2 years. I drove straight home and spent the rest of the night researching Riverside Manor apartments. What I found explained everything and made it 10 times worse. 3 years ago, there had been a fire at the complex, faulty wiring in one of the older buildings. 7 people died, including a man named David Morrison who lived in apartment 3B. The building was being rebuilt exactly the same way, but several units remained vacant because of the history. I found David's obituary online. Same face, same age, same everything. But according to the article, he died trying to escape the fire. His body was never recovered from the building. The obituary mentioned that David, he worked the night shift at a factory across town and relied on rideshare apps to get home because he didn't own a car. That's when the real nightmare started. Over the next week, I got ride requests from David M every single night, sometimes multiple times per night. I declined every one, but they kept coming, and each time I declined, the requests got more frequent. Monday, 3 requests. Tuesday, 7. Wednesday, 12 requests. Thursday, 23. By Friday, my phone was buzzing every few minutes with rideshare requests from David M. The pickup location was always Riverside Manor, but the destination started changing. My apartment building, my parents' house, my ex-girlfriend's place, locations I'd never driven to while using the Uber app. I called Uber support and explained the situation. After being transferred 4 times, I finally got someone on the line who could see my account. "I'm showing multiple ride requests from David M over the past week," she said. "But sir, according to our system, you've accepted and completed every one of those rides." "That's impossible," I said. "I declined every request." "Our GPS tracking shows otherwise. You've driven to 17 different locations with this passenger over the past 7 days. Is there a problem with payment or rating?" I hung up and checked my earnings history. She was right. According to the app, I had been driving David around all week. The trip showed up in my account complete with payments and 5-star ratings. But I hadn't driven for Uber since the night I saw him walk through the door. I went back to Reddit and posted an update. Within minutes, I had messages from Tom in Denver. "You need to get out of town, now. It's not just David anymore." "What do you mean?" I typed back. "Check the passenger names on your recent trips." I opened my Uber app and looked at my ride history. My blood turned to ice. The passengers from the past weeks weren't all David M. They were other names too. Jennifer K, Robert S, Maria L, David P, Lisa M, Kevin J. 7 names, 7 passengers I'd never picked up. 7 people who died in the Riverside Manor fire. Tom's next message made my hands shake. "They're all trying to get home, Marcus, and they're using drivers to do it. But the more rides you give them, the more real they become. Eventually, they don't need the app anymore." "What happens then?" I asked. "They start showing up in real life." As if on cue, I got a ride request, but this time it wasn't through the Uber app. It was a text message sent directly to my personal number. "Marcus, I'm ready for my ride now. Come pick me up. David." I never gave David my phone number. I never give any passenger my personal number. A few minutes later, another text. "The others are waiting too. We've been waiting so long." Then another. "Room for 7 in your car." The texts kept coming, one after another. "Jennifer here, I need to get home." "Robert, I'm still waiting for pickup." "Maria, driver 5 minutes away." "Daniel, ETA please." "Lisa, where are you?" "Kevin, coming now." I turned my phone off and threw it in a drawer, but I could still hear the buzzing. That night, I heard tapping on my apartment windows. I live on the 4th floor. I looked through the peephole and saw 7 people standing in the hallway. They were translucent, like David had been, and they were all wearing clothes with burn marks. They were all staring directly at my door. I picked a bag and left through the fire escape. I've been driving 3 days straight, staying in different motels, paying cash for everything, but they're following me. Yesterday morning, I woke up to find wet footprints leading from the parking lot to my motel room door. The prints stopped right at my threshold, like they couldn't cross it. I went to the front desk and asked if they had security cameras. The night clerk, a college-aged kid with bloodshot eyes, gave me a weird look. "You mean you didn't see them?" he asked. "See who?" "The people standing outside your room all night. 7 of them, just waiting. They were all there when I started my shift at midnight, and they didn't leave until sunrise. Honestly, they kind of freaked me out, but they weren't causing trouble, so..." I'm in a different motel now, 2 states away, but I know they'll find me. They always do. Last night, I made the mistake of checking my Uber account one more time. I had 17 completed trips from yesterday, all with 5-star ratings. but I haven't driven for Uber in over a week. The destination we're getting closer to wherever I am. The last ride, it shows a drop-off point just 3 miles from this motel. And here's what really keeps me awake. When I looked at the trip details, it showed that I'd been driving for 11 hours straight, picking up and dropping off the same 7 passengers over and over in an endless loop. According to the app, I never stopped driving. I just got another text, not from David this time, but from my own phone number. "We found you, Marcus. We're outside." I looked through the window, and there they are, all 7 of them, standing in the parking lot looking up at my room. They're more solid now, more real. I can see the burn marks on their clothes, the soot on their faces. David is in the front, and he's holding up a sign like he's waiting for a pickup. The sign has my name on it. They're inside the building now. I can hear them in the hallway, talking quietly among themselves, planning something. I'm going to try to leave through the bathroom window, but I don't think the distance matters anymore. I don't think there's anywhere I can go that they won't follow. They're at my door now. The knocking is soft, polite, like passengers who are ready for their rideshare. If you drive for any rideshare company, do yourself a favour. If you ever get a pickup request from David M or any passenger from Riverside Manor Apartments, don't accept it. And if you're ever driving late at night and you pick up someone who doesn't seem quite right, don't look too closely in the rearview mirror, don't ask too many questions, and whatever you do, don't let them know your real name, because once they know who you are, once they've been in your car, they never leave. The knocking stopped. I can hear them whispering on the other side of the door. "He's been a good driver, always on time, 5-star service, time to go home, all of us, together." The door is opening. I never unlocked it. David is standing there, and he looks completely solid now, real, and behind him are the other 6, and they're all smiling. "Thanks for picking us up so late, Marcus," David says. "We've been waiting so long for this ride." "Where are we going?" I hear myself ask. "Home," they all say together. "We're all going home." My phone is buzzing. One last notification. Uber ride request accepted. Passenger Marcus K. Pickup location motel room 237. Destination Riverside Manor Apartments, ETA. Now. If anyone finds this recording, just know that I tried to warn you. The app is still running on my phone. I'm still getting ride requests, but now I'm not the driver anymore. I'm the passenger, and I'm still waiting for someone to take me home.